thing. Oh, all right, recording in progress. You've been warned. Yeah, so welcome to the Mode Shift Omaha monthly membership meeting. It is Wednesday, August 25th somehow. I cannot believe it's nearing September. Anyway, thanks for being here. I'm Sarah Johnson. My pronouns are she, her. I am the volunteer and membership coordinator. Just remembered to put it into speaker view. Anyway, so we have kind of a bit of an agenda today. There's a lot to cover, but we just mostly felt like it was time to kind of gather everybody together so that we can talk and kind of, usually at our membership meetings, we have guests, which has been fun. But sometimes it's nice to just like get back to the membership and talk about what's going on with our teams and that sort of thing. So that's kind of the goal for tonight. I am super grateful to see a lot of new faces joining us tonight. I think a lot of us, have been involved since the get-go. There's a lot of new energy lately. So I'm super grateful to see you all tonight. It makes us feel less alone in our struggles, as Madeline was discussing, against this darn city sometimes. But anyway, for those of you who don't know, Mode Shift Omaha has been around since about 2010, 2011. We finally formalized into a 501c3 shortly after that, because we kind of kept having these meetings and wanted to get things happening a little bit more substantially with mobility equity in Omaha. And we've really grown a lot over the last decade. I cannot believe it's been a decade, but it's because of all of you that we're here and continuing this good work. So for those of you that don't know kind of our vision, mission, values type of thing, it's pretty simple. To advocate for transportation equity that enhances quality of life and opportunities for everyone to live, work, and play. And so basically what that means is we kind of feel like Omaha is a pretty car dependent city, and we don't think it needs to be that way. I won't dilly-dally on all of the benefits. I mean, you're all here because you know some of them, but from environmental sustainability to fiscal responsibility to just on and on and on, physical and financial ability, there's just a lot of reasons that it's unfortunate that you kind of feel like you have to have a car in this city to be treated as a full citizen. Anyway, so that's,
if you don't want to have to drive around, you can bike and walk everywhere. And so we are good at teaching you how to get from like Elkhorn, I don't go there, but Elkhorn to Bellevue, if that's possible, or Elkhorn to downtown Omaha. I don't know if that's possible either. I'm just making it up. But.
Yes, so we try to make sure that everyone, no matter their mode, can get around town. Thanks, Madeline. So I guess kind of what I wanted to do before we jump into kind of some team introductions, because that's kind of one of the ways that we work. Not only do we, try to rally the troops and show up at City Hall when there's issues like we ran into these last, well, there's always stuff going on at City Hall. But we also have different types of outreach and education efforts happening. We have a bike team, walk team, transit team, Council Bluffs team. We're actually sort of dabbling in Sarpy County now. We have a student chapter. We've got, I feel like I'm probably missing someone. We're going to get to all that in a minute, but there's just a lot going on and there's a lot of work to do. And so we are all very, grateful that you're here and want to encourage you. If you're not a card carrying member, it is my job to tell you to become one. So this is me saying, please become a member. We've got a bunch of links that I'll drop into the chat at the end as well. But the perks of becoming a member, aside from just knowing that you're supporting a wonderful cause, you get like a little tote bag and some reflective ankle straps for biking or walking and visibility, a little phone wallet that goes on the back to hold your cards. Maybe one of my favorite things is these cards. This is not going to work. Maybe you can see them, maybe you can't. But on the back, what we really like is that you can put these on cars that park across the sidewalk, because on the back it says, everyone should be able to get around no matter their ability. Please don't block the sidewalk or the ramp to the sidewalk. It's the neighborly thing to do and the legal thing to do. So again, kind of just back to that education piece. A lot of folks aren't aware that it is not legal to block pedestrian walkways. So there's just kind of a lot never-ending work. So we would love your help and support, however that looks. All right, I think that we probably, I guess real quick before we get into the team stuff, does anybody have any questions about anything? All right, awesome. Madeline made a good point in the chat. If you become a member, we send you a membership card and a little sticker that you can either put on your, yeah, look, Cindy has her card right there. Oh man, okay, I'm gonna put it into gallery view for a minute. Do y'all know how to like use the little reaction button to raise your hand? If you want to humor me, raise your hand if you're a card carrying Mode Shift member. No shame, no shame. Look at all those hands. I'm going to add this little link right now to become a card carrying member. In case, you know, you're just like, oh boy, I would really love to be able to raise my hand right now. Oh my gosh, I'm pretty sure that's not the link I wanted to just drop in there. But anyway, we are, you know, excited that we see so many of you, and there can certainly be more if you follow that link. All right, cool. I think we're going to just jump into teams because that's kind of the bulk of what we're doing right now is back to speaker view, even though it's my face too much. Yeah, so we kind of have an outline of our teams. So we're going to start. Stephanie, are you ready for me to put you on the spot and toss it over to you, friend? We have a newer team lead for our walkability group, and that is Stephanie Hanson. So Stephanie, are you ready to tell us what the walkability team is up to?
I am.
All right.
I'm ready. Okay, so I'm new to the walkability team. I'm new to Mode Shift and the walkability team, but most recently walking team. And so I just threw together real quick, just like a who, what, when, where, how kind of thing. So we're trying to formulate an official mission statement for the walkability team, but in general, what we're trying to do is just advocate for safe, accessible, equitable, pedestrian traffic lanes. Because I mean, people move beyond being in a vehicle, being on a bike, being on a public transportation, a bus, etc. So that is our focus. A lot of it is going to be surrounded with sidewalks. For example, Madeline is having a hard time navigating a sidewalk. That shouldn't even be an issue. It shouldn't be an issue at all. And the city should definitely be responsible for maintaining sidewalks and properly having proper signage, etc. We meet on the second Wednesday every month. So we've already had our meeting for this month, but you can certainly pop in any meeting the second Wednesday of the month. We have a link. I don't have the link. Sarah, could you drop what you do? Okay, perfect. But yeah, pop in at any moment or any time and just join us and get involved. We do those meetings via Zoom. Sarah's dropped the link in there. And we also will, I have not had the opportunity to do so yet because I'm still very new to this, but we'll also meet as a group. We do different types of campaigns, like we walking to bring attention to certain areas in town, like say there's some place that citizens have been trying to advocate on their own for something that's happening in their neighborhood, for instance, like dropping poles in the middle of sidewalks, you know, things like that. And not getting any kind of feedback or even noise from the city. We like to be able to help those folks and hopefully bring some attention to it. So we try to coordinate walking events, walk with me events. We've also had, I think a couple of team members have done some neighborhood type stuff. So we're looking to do more of those kinds of things and some educational type campaigns, like just to explain like what right of way does a pedestrian have, like little things. Like a lot of people don't understand that even if a crosswalk doesn't have the nice little painted lines on it, if it's an intersection, you can cross there. You know, things like that. Or for example, like what Sarah was saying, like it's illegal to block the sidewalk and people just do it. And I think some people just don't care. And then might be other people who really just don't know that that's a thing. So that's what we do, is we're just trying to bring attention to what it is like currently in different parts of the city to move about with your 2 feet, or if you are in a wheelchair, or if you have to use a cane, any of those types of movement that don't involve some other type of locomotion. So yeah, that's that's what we're doing. We have a couple of events coming up, and I think I'm gonna, Cindy, if you'll help me, because I know you sent me an email, but I didn't get a chance to peek at it before I hopped on here. But I think we're gonna have really soon a crosswalk type event at 72nd and Dodge, because that's awesome. We actually have a really nicely marked crosswalk now, which is very much needed. And then another one that's more of a celebration, and then another one closer to that area that is to bring attention to a recent death that occurred, motor vehicle and pedestrian collision. Cindy, can you help me out with those dates? I know they're tentative, but
actually, I think we're kind of looking at the 7th of September, meeting at Dodge Street, 72nd and Dodge at 5 o'clock. We're going to cross the crosswalk at least once or twice. I'm really sad though, because the crosswalk's already fading.
oh,
For some reason, they just gave us paint and other places are getting plastic. So I'm happy we got it, but come on. So anyway, we're gonna meet and like either on the southeast corner or by Target, and then we'll cross a couple of times and be celebrating that we actually have a crosswalk, and then we're gonna walk to 72nd and Cass. And actually that's a good experience too, because the sidewalks are very, very close to traffic, and it can be kind of frightful. And then we'll have a moment of silence at 72nd and Cass for actually it was a motorist, I believe, that was lost their life, but there's also been motorcycle accidents there where people have lost their lives. So it's a really dangerous intersection. So we want to bring attention to that. And so that's on the 7th of September, a Tuesday.
okay. Thanks, Cindy. I appreciate that. We also have, I think we can subscribe to emails on Mode Shift, and then when you get the newsletter, all the different types of events for each team, but particularly for walkability will be in there too. That's all that I have, unless someone has any questions.
That's awesome. That's great. Thank you. Walkability team rules. We've had some really fun events in the past, like the Big Sweep was another fun event. We've other walk with us types of events over the years. So an active team who has a lot of great folks plugged in, and we really want to just make sure that tonight everyone feels like they are able to plug in however they want to. So I've been dropping more stuff in the chat as far as like how to sign up for our emails and that sort of thing. I'll also just put my email in the chat as well, because I kind of am able to direct emails any which way. So it's just sarah@modeshift.org, and I can help kind of direct you to whoever team leaders or whatever as far as that goes. So all righty then. Oh, the other couple walk team events that we're kind of honing in on, there's a North 78th Street situation by Crown Point where a citizen has reached out to us who has been frustrated for years now with the city, has reached out to them several times and is just really not getting anywhere with them. So we have kind of 4 different events with the walk teams that we've identified, different intersections and different issues, whether it's the pole at 55th and Poppleton or the 72nd and Dodge celebration / walk to the death spot. We also like to bring up Vision Zero a lot. That's something we could talk about a little bit more later too. And then we also wanted to highlight what's going on in Blackstone with their new kind of pedestrian and walkability plan. So walk team's got a lot going on. We can always use your help too. So yes, good point, Brian, with Mode Shift Slack. If you become a member, you get an invite to the Slack channel. And then that is how we do a lot of our communication. So, all right, we will keep moving because I'm going to try to stay on the schedule. All right. Oh, well, I guess it's going to be me because I'm going to be giving the transit update for Isaiah, who couldn't be with us tonight. But Isaiah Ang, he is the transit team lead. And usually it's kind of a smaller team these days. And so they're actually going to be taking a month off to kind of regroup and come up with a little bit more of a plan, because I didn't want to, we had a meeting last night. A big fan here of action items. And I don't like it when teams just meet for the sake of just meeting. I mean, that's fine if you want to. Go ahead, your team leaders, you can do what you want. But it's cool when there's action items. And so Isaiah and Clyde and I kind of last night decided we're going to take a month off to kind of regroup. So this is a big call to all of you. If you care about bus stuff, please let me know and I'll plug in with Isaiah and the transit team. There have been in the past some ride the bus with us events. There's something that we're going to be kind of working towards actually in November. There's a pro rail meeting at UNO, and we're talking about maybe doing a ride the bus with us Orbit edition after that meeting in November. So the next transit team meeting, and again, I dropped that link to sign up for our newsletter updates, but it'll be October 26th. It's the 4th Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. So just a little fun fact there. Oh, and actually, yeah, Madeline just popped in the chat about right now, Metro and Orbit specifically is experimenting with some new payment systems, and they have been asking for some feedback and some help with experimenting with their new apps and cards. So I know Melanie Davis, another board member, is one of the kind of experimenters. She's a wheelchair user. And I know it sounds like Madeline is helping. And anyway, so they're trying to get a lot of feedback on how that's working. Orbit is still free right now, which is delightful. And I think that it should just be fare free forever, like Kansas City does. But they are working towards getting that figured out.
So not to interrupt you, it's free until like August. Wait, what's today's August 26th or September 15th or September 6th? And then you have to start paying for it using the smart card or the app I talked about. Yeah.
So it's to be determined, I guess. And that's kind of what I heard too, is like they don't have a real firm date on it because it's still kind of up in the air, and they're having actually, yeah, there's a lot of different dates. So we'll keep y'all posted when it does actually turn into the time. But yeah, we are in pretty constant communication with Jason Rose and Evan. There's a lot of good folks at Metro, so we will keep y'all posted. All right, I think any questions about transit team stuff before we move over to Bike Land? We'll kick it off to Derek here in a second if nobody has any questions. Okay, sounds real good. We will bother Derek now about some updates. What's happening with the bike team, Derek Babb?
Well, the same, except that we went last Monday. We did a bike ride down the Harney Street cycle track, and we got a lot of feedback from people. But if you've ridden that and you have feedback, we're trying to compile some things that we want to send to all of the stakeholders, Bike Walk Nebraska, the Metro Smart Cities, and then our respective city council people, just to make sure that if it is a pilot, we want to make sure that it's being done as effective of a pilot as possible, and really not only praising it for existing, because we're all very excited that this thing exists, but also commenting on how maybe they misapplied some treatment. So, there's a lot of sort of confusing signalizations going on with it. There's some low hanging branches. I don't mean that in like a figurative sense. There's just trees in the way. There's some other things that we noticed, certainly the road conditions aren't great. And that's something that I think would be really interesting to do a study on, what, sort of pavement degradation happens in a bike lane over time versus happens in a roadway over time. But it's pretty chunky. And if you see things like the slots on the storm grates just go vertically with the skinny bike tires, that was something that we noticed. And so we're trying to compile those comments and get those to the right people, so that if and when this does become permanent, it has the best elements of a bike lane. So, I mean, our hope is that this is the first of many separated bike lanes in Omaha, and we want to make sure that they're done well, and we're giving all the feedback we can. So you can individually give feedback through, I believe it's through the Metro Smart Cities page that you do that. Yeah, and Sarah just threw, or Liz just threw it there. Fantastic. But we would also like to send some information as an organization and as an advocacy group, just to say, this is what our membership has noticed, and this is what we have personally noticed. I don't know that carries any more weight, but we'll put it on letterhead. So that always is nice. And then we have a couple things coming up. We have the Tour de Garden coming up. Sarah, remind me of the date on that one, because it's September 5th.
5th, yep, Sunday.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we're meeting at 9 a.m. in Benson at the Ted and Wally's parking lot, and we're going to a number of different neighborhood gardens, and it should be a really casual, fun ride. It doesn't sound like it'll end with beer as was originally planned, but you know, live and learn, and the city is the worst. But they called, I don't know. I'm not going to get into that bit of it, but it was a nicely planned event that's a little less nice now, but that's okay. We're very excited to tour neighborhood gardens. And it's just fun to do on bikes, and it's fun to get a group of people together on a bike and go see different places of the city that you might not be used to. And the final thing that we're sort of thinking of is going into winter, which I know right now it feels like winter will never get here. But looking at something I know other organizations have done, like winter cycling challenges, it'd be cool for us to put together something where we can log our miles through the winter, and for our own sake, for our own sort of like competitive nature. I don't know if you're one like me that just, I bike all the time, and sometimes it's fun to show that off. But also just to sort of collect that data and have something that we can point back to when the city says, or when people say, bike lanes are great, but no one bikes in the winter, that we can point to people biking in the winter. So things around that, but that's sort of what we got cooking right now.
Awesome. Okay, cool. I'm just messaging. I know Drew with our Council Bluffs team actually has to get going in a minute. I did just ask Ryan if he would talk about data collection stuff, but Drew, I know you're kind of in a hurry, so we'll pop you in now to give us an update on Council Bluffs if you want. Thanks.
Sure, yeah, thank you. So my name is Drew Rowe. I am with the Council Bluffs team. We started this team about a year ago, and it's been a little slow just through the pandemic. It was hard to get a few people together. So just really quick about what this team pretty much encompasses is our main focus is First Ave, which stands for Furthering Interconnections, Revitalization, Streetscapes, Transportation, and Aesthetics for a Vibrant Economy. Kind of a mouthful. But First Ave actually runs along our First Avenue, which was an old railroad corridor, and it goes right down the middle of Council Bluffs, from the riverfront pretty much all the way to downtown Council Bluffs. We're kind of blessed with how this all came about. First Avenue is, like I was saying, a total redevelopment for a multimodal corridor, and it runs one block parallel just south of Broadway. So as of right now, what we have going on is a 10-foot wide trail. The first phase is almost done. That goes from 25th Street to 35th Street. And then second phase would be from 16th to 25th Street along that corridor. Really, the end goal of this is to move our transit system, like the buses, over to First Avenue and free up more space on Broadway, just to make going through town a little bit easier for everybody. So we have talked about looking for opportunities to schedule a bike ride once this trail is complete. It might be another year or so. Like I said, we only have half of it done for right now, so we're moving along quite a bit. But there are areas of continued opportunity for pedestrian and bike safety as we keep going on with the development for First Avenue. One thing we've discussed was getting together with the city to go over painting the green lines to go along the crosswalks as they cross all of the intersections, which is all of our numbered streets, the entire corridor. So that's just one area that we'll be really looking into over the next couple of years. We had discussed Madeline and I and Lee, we discussed scheduling a bus ride since we are starting to integrate more of our transit system into Omaha. We're wanting to see how to utilize the orbit system because we don't know how any of that works over here. And eventually we want that to expand over to Council Bluffs. One event that we have going on right now is a bike rack audit. That is a part of another group that I'm with called Healthy Hometowns. And really that is taking stock of what bike racks are available in the community, what state they're in, do they really serve a purpose? And if there is an area that could utilize a bike rack, we will install that. And that would be a grant gifted by the city to have those installed. So we have a lot of things going on. We're still working out all of the kinks, but there's a lot of good stuff ahead for us.
May I mention one thing? Why to teach people in Council Bluffs how to ride Orbit? Like we can do basic ones, like just start in, I guess, downtown Omaha, or I don't really know Council Bluffs at all. But so start in the downtown Omaha.
Mm-hmm.
And then just go to the Joslin, and then people could explore Joslin if they want. And then go back downtown just to see.
Yeah, a lot of our residents. I mean, we have our bus system. We only have 1 or 2 lines in Council Bluffs, so it takes a while for people who are riding the bus to go from somewhere here in Council Bluffs to downtown, and then we would have to transfer to go wherever we wanted to go. But ideally, we would want to see how we would be able to make it more seamless.
Well, and we've done that. I forget, Clyde was with me. We did that. We took the yellow bus to Council Bluffs, and then we went to a few things. So we could definitely teach, like we could start out in Council Bluffs, I guess. And then just so they aren't nervous. Like, I don't know anyone in Council Bluffs, so they aren't nervous. Like, okay, this is how you catch the yellow to go.
It sounds like the Council Bluffs team and the transit team have some great opportunities for some collaboration.
For sure.
Awesome. Yeah, totally. Anything else on Council Bluffs, Drew, before we're going to keep it rolling here?
Unless anybody else has questions, I mean, there's a lot of information. We are trying to get a coffee chat going, so we'll definitely dive more into it once we get that scheduled.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Thank you so much. Good luck with your showing.
Yep, thank you.
All right. Cool. We're actually going to now hop over to Dr. Ryan Wishart, who is a professor at Creighton University in the Social Science Data Lab. He and I have been kind of working on and got a grant through Spin Scooter Company to access some data tools, because when the Harney Street cycle track was, finally becoming a reality as far as a pilot anyway, we wanted to make sure that we had some data of our own, just to make sure that, the city's going to be, of course, collecting their own information, but we just saw an opportunity with the Spin data pilot grant. So we went for it, we got it. So Ryan, you want to hop on and kind of make it sound less stupid than I just did?
Sure. So we've got access to 3 sets of tools. Two which are primary are Streetlight, which is big data. They buy cell phone data location from the cell phone companies, and then from, you got that free light or Stargazer app on your phone where they're selling your location data to people like these guys. So they then process that information in order to be able to estimate where people are taking trips and how they're getting there. So it's most reliable for cars, but we've got the option to look at bicycle and pedestrian trips as well. We dived into it to try and see, for example, who was using the intersections that were earmarked in the current proposed CIP, approved now, CIP for road widening. And we can see things like where those folks live, the racial and class data based on 2010 census data. So it's a little old now. The new stuff's going to be coming out soon. So we're hoping to be able to use that in advocacy and to help evaluate the Harney cycle track, which is one of the focus of the grants. The other key tool is a Numina sensor. It's basically a video camera that they stick up on a light pole, and then a computer processes the video of that intersection and creates a digital record of every pedestrian, truck, car, bus, etc., that you can see what paths pedestrians are taking, what paths bikes are taking. So we're going to start off with some of those on the Harney Street cycle track with areas that we know are problematic, like the highway overpass. But we also want to probably in the spring, move some of those onto a orbit site or two, for example, 72nd, and use them to highlight where we want to push for better pedestrian policy and infrastructure. So those are the two main things. I don't know if I can screen share and give you guys a little taste of, I cannot.
Or I can give it to you.
I'll keep it brief, but to give you an example of the kind of output we can do with this. Here is where the cell phones that traveled through the intersections for the CIP sleep at night. And this is anonymized with some privacy layers, but you can see things like, it's largely out to the west, that the density of users outside the city in La Vista Papillion is as significant or greater than in a lot of North Omaha. Another example here, this is
looking at all the CIP projects or
just the road widening ones. This one here is a different kind of map showing what it estimates to be the pedestrian origins of people who walk to Creighton's campus. So not a very wide thing. We're still working out some bugs on that. I just got an email from tech support today, but anyone who wants to get involved in using these tools or helping us pick locations for those video camera sensors, contact me or Sarah, and we'll get you plugged into working on this. I mean, I think there's opportunities to put more of the CIP proposals in, and we can do things like compare, who's benefiting from road widening with who's benefiting from our road calming and multimodal investments. And I think we're going to see clear sort of class and racial differences among those if we can get that analysis done.
Thank you, Ryan. I think the other thing that's kind of interesting about that particular project is that ModeShift and Creighton applied, and the city of Omaha and Heartland B-Cycle applied. And then Spin was like, hey, how about we make a super team out of all of you? So those of you who have known and loved ModeShift for a decade know that sometimes we don't get along super great with the city of Omaha because we're always asking them for more than they want to give. And so this is kind of a cool, opportunity for collaboration and to show that we can indeed work together. So that is what we have going on. Thank you, Ryan, for sharing your screen and all that stuff that is so complicated, makes my head spin, but you are doing a great job and I appreciate you. All right, we are going to now, does anybody, I guess, have questions about that before we move on to our missing middle housing team? All right, Brian, who's currently in New York, is going to hopefully tell us about it.
So just real quick, if you shake and nod your heads if you know what missing middle is. Okay, so it doesn't sound like it's transportation oriented, but it is an offshoot of ModeShift. So the missing middle campaign right now is their first big action was working on TOD, and TOD has been implemented. So now we probably need to start looking at the success of that. Now that the first three projects have been.
Let's tell people what TOD means. If you use acronyms, tell people what that mean. Thank you.
Okay. The transit-oriented districts.
Development, transit-oriented development. Sorry.
Oh, I pick up my architecture from a lot of different cities. They all use different, but they all use TOD. So there's a bunch of districts, basically one stretched out district along Dodge where you can build denser and have lesser requirements than most of the other residential districts across the city. So our TOD districts, the transit-oriented development districts in Omaha, we probably need to start measuring that success now that the first three developments have been announced underneath that. And I think the Clove Apartments is starting construction. So the second thing we wanted to target was the ADU, which is accessory dwelling units. That has been proposed and accepted as of October last year. However, it's a little overburdensome the way that it's designed. It kind of got just tacked on with the TOD at the same time. And all of that was more or less a justification for the Orbit bus route in the first place. So it wasn't really well thought out. Those aren't missing middle specific, but they are mode shift specific activities that we're involved in. To continue missing middle activities, we probably need to step up to the next thing on that platform. We have a person who was leading missing middle and he is leaving like this week. So we're gonna take that over. We don't know what that looks like. We'll have another strategic meeting next month. And then after that, in October, we'll probably do every other month. So if you guys wanna get involved on finding missing middle housing in Omaha, solutions to it, whether it's on the small end on the ADUs or the big ends in the TOD districts, and all the housing that we need in between. Transportation goes to a long way to getting that missing middle housing. So I'll put my email and Grace Thomas's email in the chat and we can start that conversation as well. Grace and Will did have a separate website, which you can see there in the chat as well. Any questions on missing middle or anything we can do? We just had a meeting last night, so some of this is still in flux. We'll get that sorted out over the next week or two and then know where we're going next.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. One thing that I was kind of jumping between missing middle and transit meetings last night, trying to do too many things. But one thing that I kind of like screamed to missing middle before I switched to transit was parking minimums. That's something that's definitely on my personal agenda that I mean, a lot of times my personal agenda and mode shifts are very much the same. So I'm hoping that whether it's missing middle or I don't know, all of the teams can kind of, again, collaborate to work on at least moving towards elimination of parking minimums, because we know that, and I think that it's another opportunity to collaborate with some other housing organizations doing good work in Omaha, because expensive parts of development a lot of times involve the fact that you have to build too much parking. So anywho, okay.
So Sarah, is there a separate group for CIP analysis, or is that something that we're throwing into missing middle? And
that is sort of like a still forming group. It sucks that Will is moving. We miss you already, Will Green. But yeah, there's the point is we have so much work to do and so many areas that we kind of feel like fit under the mode shift umbrella, but sometimes we don't know exactly where some of the campaigns will fit in. To me, I don't know exactly. It sort of feels missing middle-ish to me because it involves housing and development and that sort of thing. But yeah, CIP team is something that has been talked about. CIP meaning capital improvement program. I will cry about that at the end here a little bit. But yeah, good question. CIP is something that we've been analyzing and talking about, and actually have, I think, influenced to be a little bit more readable document than it was 5-8 years ago. Still has some work to do. And yeah, that's a very long.
So it goes hand in hand with some of that missing middle. And like Ryan was talking about, you'll find that where the money is being spent is often along lines of certain communities. So that analysis needs to bridge across multiple groups here.
Well, and if you want to really know more about the CIP, talk to Lee Myers or Chris Baer, who used to be a board member.
Totally. Okay. Yeah, there's so much to do, but the CIP is a dense document and it's complicated, and sometimes it doesn't matter anyway. Again, I'm going to bitch about the CIP at the end because we just had bad things happen at City Hall that we're not surprised about. For right now, we are going to keep moving along though. And actually, I think that I waited too long. And Kai, are you still here? I think Kai maybe is gone.
Kai's here.
Kai is here. Okay.
All right.
Kai, hi. Tell us about the student chapter. This is a recent thing that we've kind of started to launch, the campus student chapter. So Kai from UNO is here to tell us about what's happening. Thank you.
Yes, so we are still getting permission from the university, UNO, to become an official organization. We're still in the works for that, but hopefully once we get that up and running, we can start doing educational workshops for students who bike, because I was on campus on Tuesday and there's a lot of bikes going and coming from the campus. So I feel like there's a really good amount of group of people who can come in and join the mode shift from that. So just got to get that up and running. Hopefully it'll be started within the month.
Sweet. And that is going to be more than just UNO. It's going to be any campuses. And actually, another thought that we had talked about at one point was making sure that it's open to not just college campuses and college students, but also high school students. We know that a lot of folks who go to Central High School use the Orbit route. It's easy, it's on Dodge already. So the ideal situation would be, slowly bringing in more young folks into the organization and getting them comfortable with riding transit and taking, whether it's Orbit or whatever other metro route, or riding bikes or walking, and just kind of helping them understand that they don't have to go everywhere in a car. And actually on Monday, Durango Days is this week, which is a UNO welcome back to campus thing. And Derek and I hung out at a mode shift table on Monday. And then Derek, do you have 2 seconds to tell us what's happening on campus with the transportation showcase on Friday at UNO?
Yeah, I mean, I'm right now working with the spin scooter people, so I actually haven't buttoned that down entirely, but we're doing a transportation showcase from 9 to 1 at Mammal Hall, which is on the Scott campus, which used to be the Pacific campus, which is the South campus of UNO. There's too many campuses and they're all the same one. But on the South campus next to Mammal Hall, we're going to set up, we're going to have some B-cycles that we're going to be demoing. We're going to do some bike tours of UNO, highlighting trail access, highlighting there's 2 bike shops now with Green Street and Trek Store within relatively close biking distance. And then there's also a bunch of bike fix-it stations on campus that we're going to highlight, and we're going to have the mode shift bike fix-it station there to show people how that works in case they've never used one of those before, even to pump up tires or to tighten a piece on your bike. Most of us are not qualified to fix bikes. I always go to Sarah for everything, and she's unpaid at this point. But we're really excited to just showcase what UNO offers to students. So if you are a UNO student, you get on the bus for free. So we want to highlight how students can get to campus on bus. We're going to have information about setting up carpools. So we're working with an organization to help students find carpool buddies. Really just trying to make sure that what once was a commuter-only campus can sort of turn into a more traditional college campus with lots of people living on campus, lots of people getting to campus, not in their own car and expecting a spot right in front of their dorm or in front of their class building. So that's what we've got. It's 9 to noon or 9 to 1 on Friday.
May I ask something? I should have just put, but okay. So I have a friend who works at UNMC, and I called Metro, and they were like, no, if you are a student or you work at UNMC, your ID badge does not count. So is that still true? We know?
I can't speak to that. I know that the MAV ride works with UNO, but the fact that it's branded as MAV ride makes me think that it is a particularly UNO flavor. And I don't need to get into the inter-college disciplinary politics, but UNMC and UNO are very different organizations, just like UNL and UNK are as well. We just happen to both be in the same city.
Okay, I was just curious.
It does look like Lori just put in the chat that UNMC users need to, register, and then it's free. And also Brian is associated with UNMC. They need to notify Live Green. So it sounds like there's a way, perhaps. This is what's also so cool about Mode Shift is I just want to say every single one of you is here because you have some cool thing to plug into this organization. And a lot of this is really just who knows what about this. And we do a lot of connecting and collaborating. And so anytime you have questions, shoot them our way. We may or may not know, but we might know someone who does know. So cool. All right, awesome. I'm going to get out of speaker view for a minute and go back so I can see everyone's faces. That is kind of the end of all of our little team presentations. I wanted to just pause and make sure if anybody has any questions before we go on to a few other things, that there's time for that, because we just blasted a lot of information at you. Does anybody have anything they're wondering about? You all did such a great job of presenting. You have answered every question that possibly existed. Nice job. All right, well then I'm gonna cry a little bit about what happened at City Hall recently that some of you, most of you, maybe all of you have had a part in. First of all, if you emailed your city council person, thank you very much, because I think that they did hear us. That being said, only 4 of the 7 voted to so it's very complicated. The CIP and budget was presented. It did not involve a lot of great resources for bike and pedestrian infrastructure. A few amendments were proposed by Pete Festerson to the CIP, which would have allocated money to make the Harney Street bike lane, which is currently privately funded, and a pilot. It would have made that permanent. It was going to allocate a total of about $3 million to make that permanent. There was also an amendment proposed for $1.25 million to implement what is going to come out of the new bike ped master plan. The bike ped master plan itself did get approved. That's a little win. We got to be excited where we can find the little wins, because sometimes they're few and far between, but we will be a little excited about that. That means that we are finally going to actually create a master plan for bike walk stuff. So that's good. It's going to be with MAPPA and the city of Omaha. So that will be happening. The money would have actually gone to implementation of what the findings would point to as recommended projects. We don't have enough time to go into all the reasons why it could have passed and it should have been approved. Unfortunately, politics is a big part of it. But MoShift's a nonpartisan organization, so we can't really say anything about our political feelings. What we can say is thank you for emailing your city council people and saying shouldn't be a partisan issue. We know that bike walk benefits everyone. Anyway, the mayor vetoed Festerson's amendments. There was an opportunity for the city council to vote to override the veto, but it would have taken a super majority, meaning 5 of the 7 would have had to vote to override. And unfortunately, we only got 4. But Don Rowe is new to the city council. I'm not totally giving up on Amy Melton and Brinker Harding. Sort of, maybe I am. Although Amy Melton did bring up sidewalks and poles the other day at city council. Yay, Amy Melton, you realized that was bad, and we appreciate you for that. But Don Rowe emailed me, because I sent them all a big long email saying, please understand that this affects not just this district, it affects everyone. And we've been talking about it for a decade, and it's upsetting and embarrassing, and we're falling behind the times. And Don Rowe asked me to meet up with him and have coffee next week. So I am hopeful that we can hopefully, start to build some relationships. And he says he doesn't think either of us are hearing each other. And so I'm like, you know what? Yeah, let's try to listen to each other. So we'll see about that. But little segue to a thing that we do every week. Yes, Rowe does get TOD, and he has some good ideas about housing. And he has shown a little bit of promise and interest in some good ideas. So I'm going to bring him a book. I'm going to talk to him about some of MoShift's feelings. I already sent him some blog posts so he can familiarize himself with the decade of talking we've been doing about this particular project that he said is too premature to fund because we're only 3 weeks in. Y'all, I was screaming to myself at City Hall on Tuesday when he said that. Anyway, okay, so if you want to nerd out about city council stuff, I'm going to drop yet another link in the chat for a thing that we do every Thursday, and it's called Council Club. And you can register through the link I just popped in there, but we meet on Thursdays at 7:30 to talk about the agenda. And it's when we find, stuff like the CIP or zoning stuff, which is missing middle related. So it's open to everyone. It happens weekly. Sometimes feels like a support group. Anyway, join us or don't, but that's an option. The budget and CIP only happens once a year. So we're going to work on that again. Hopefully before the next CIP, we will have a CIP team so that we can kind of get in front of it a little bit earlier. Yeah. Any questions about any of that before we keep rolling to a few more things?
Why did I think CIPs were 5 years long?
You're not wrong. It's a 6-year document, but they
adjust it every
change
year.
it every year. But no, you're super smart. That's true. This one was 22 through 26. And that's what's extra frustrating to me is they're it's too premature. We can't put this funding in a document that doesn't really mean anything, because PS, the Harney Street bike lane has already been in the CIP years ago and got taken out. It was even identified as a pretty high ranking project. So it's upsetting. It's Omaha. We're working to make it better. Serenity now. All right. You should also buy a t-shirt. We have a bunch of new Mode Shift t-shirts. We're selling them for $20 a pop. If you're a member, you get a discount. Email me if you want one, and we're going to maybe try to figure out a better way to sell them online. But in the meantime, email me and I'll send one your way. They're cute. They're teal. They have our brain logo on them. I feel like I should have one handy. Didn't think that far in advance. No one's wearing one. That's right. All right. I dropped a bazillion links.
Sarah,
Yes.
may I mention one thing?
Yes.
So that's why it's important to become a member, just because we are working on, Sarah has said she's been working on this stuff for years and years and years. So there's always things that need to be fixed. So that's why it's important to become a member, or at least just come to these meetings and just be involved, so you know what's happening in our city that is not, I mean, it's okay, but yeah.
Could be better. We're shifting it. Thank you, Madeline. All of what you said is true.
It's just,
Liz,
it's
look at-
annoying. It's annoying. It's annoying. So that's all I'll say.
All right, perfect. Liz, if you all look at Liz's screen, you can see the t-shirt that we are trying to sell you all. We've got sizes, I believe, extra small through double extra large. So they are unisex cut and 100% cotton, printed locally, simply delightful. Blank on the back. Thank you, Liz. Like Vanna White over there. How nice. All right, I have another link. I know you guys are really so excited about all of these links I'm putting in the chat. We sponsor a podcast. Car Free Midwest is something that I do. I'm biased. I think it's fun, but it's as Madeline was saying, it's frustrating sometimes. And so my buddy Josh and I talk about how to be less car dependent in Omaha. So if anybody has topics they want to suggest we talk about, or if you want to be on it yourself, I might bug some of you at some point to talk with us about what's going on. But that is something else. Yeah, if you're on Patreon, like Derek just said, there's one that's going to come out soon. If you're a Patreon member, you get it early. Anyway, podcast, if you want to keep diving deeper into the things that Mode Shift folks talk about. I've just talked a whole bunch. What else? Someone else has to have a question or something. And Madeline, you're awesome. But if it's someone that's not Madeline, that would also be cool. We've heard from you a lot and we love you to pieces. Anybody else have anything else?
Yeah.
Something. Oh, sorry, Kai. Go ahead.
Okay. It's just gonna be real quick. Do y'all know who's funding the Harney Bike Street project? Because I read somewhere that the city is not they're not even funding it.
That's correct. It's 100% private money, and it's actually an anonymous donor working with Metro Smart Cities and Bike Walk Nebraska. Those are the two private entity or nonprofits that are working together. But they found a private funder because we've been, like I said, like we've all said, it's been a decade of us trying to get this thing built. And finally someone just was like, all right, $250,000, I'll fund it. So yeah, it exists because of private money. Yeah,
At the
Ryan.
wedding, I asked if it was secret who was funding it, and the guy next to me, who I forget what group he was from, said it was Sherwood.
It is.
There we go. It's always Sherwood. Thank you, Sherwood. We like our little bike lane. Could be better, should be better, will be better, because we're gonna band together and make it so. Yeah.
So the thing I was going to add is we got tapped to be sort of the early readers, or at least I did, of the Confessions of a Recovering Engineer from Strong Towns. So I think that will be a Car Free Midwest podcast hopefully soon. But if you've not looked into Strong Towns, they're definitely very much in the vein of Mode Shift. They've worked with us in the past. I know when Chuck Marone came through Omaha a couple years ago, he sat down with us and specifically talked sort of what is our strategy, and we had a really good conversation with him at that time. And he's the founder of Strong Towns, if you don't know him. So that book is coming out soon. I think September 8th or 15th, or there's a date on it, but I don't recall it right off the top of my head. So the book is coming out soon, and we're very excited to sort of push that, just because it's coming at it from an engineer's perspective. And I think that a lot of our city engineers tend to get inside of the manual says do X, so we do X. And this book really pushes back on that. And so it specifically fights the type of pushback that we've had in Omaha, that we don't do things because the book says it has to be this wide, or that lanes have to look like this, and we just follow that. So we're really excited about this, and we're going to do some advocacy around sort of pushing that national organization locally.
Totally. Yes, we're definitely going to have we should try to, Strong Towns does their own podcast. It's really cool too. But yeah, that'll be exciting to kind of check out soon. All right, I'm going back to gallery so I can see you. Who else has questions? Somebody, anybody?
I have a question, Sarah.
Tell me.
Sorry. Kai.
We'll go to Kai next. What's up?
All right. Hey. Hi, everyone. I have two questions. One, I know it's like only 2 weeks later, and the study still has to be funded, but any news on 24th Street bus line? And then my follow-up question is for people who want to get involved with bus stuff, when is like the subgroup meeting for that for Mode Shift?
Excellent questions. Thank you. So we are actually, as far as I know, I don't know anything. Like I said, Isaiah is kind of our transit guy and he's not here right now, but the next transit meeting, we're skipping September. So it'll be October 26th at 6 o'clock. And that, again, that information will be sent out in newsletters. We always try to make Facebook events and share stuff certainly through our newsletter is the most count onable way. So make sure that that's not ended up in your spam folder, and then you'll be aware of what's going on with that. But I think as far as specifically the 24th Street corridor, and anybody else who knows what's going on, feel free to jump in, but I don't have any other updates. I think that they're probably still in the collecting information phase and studying things, because that's what we really like to do for a long time here before we do
Yeah.
that.
Well, we will try to stay in touch with Jason, though, who I think, Leah, you were there, was our last speaker last month and talked about that. So we will definitely try to keep people updated as we hear stuff. I don't have any new updates, but also on the team meetings, they're also on the front page of our website, modeshiftomaha.org. There's a little calendar there, and you can add that calendar to your Google Calendar, which if you use that, I find that to be really helpful because it just puts stuff on your calendar if you want that. So that's another way to stay connected.
Totally. And I just dropped that recording into the chat because all I keep doing is putting things in the chat. But if you weren't able to be at the last meeting when we invited our friends from Metro, it is there for your viewing pleasure. But I have found Jason is really responsive, I think it's jason.rose@ometro.org. I'll find it, Leah, and send it to you if you don't already have his contact, but they're pretty responsive. And yeah, I'd say just keep on them, keep asking, because that's the thing that we can all do, right? Is just pressure our representatives and the people in these organizations that are doing this work. So it's important, I think, a lot of times for Mode Shift to just act as kind of I don't want to say a watchdog group, but just, an accountability type of a team to make sure that those in decision-making roles know that we're paying attention because we really care about this stuff. We're not always necessarily confrontational, we're just passionate. And so I think making sure that folks know that we are supportive and excited to see things happen. It's never a bad thing. So there you go, jrose@ometro. Thanks.
I love it. I'll email him. I'll ask him myself.
Awesome. Yes, and again, back to that, connecting the dots. If you need somebody's email, we might have it. Brandon, thank you so much for being here. I was bummed that I didn't get to finally meet you in person on Monday night at the bike ride, but I'll hope to see you soon. And I'm sending you a bunch of those. No, I did send you the cards. Okay, just kidding. See you later. All right.
The 24th Street's also something we're talking to Metro about with the SPIN grant. The two locations that they were interested in getting Numina data analysis of the intersections was 72nd and Dodge, right? It's got all kinds of problems. Pedestrian infrastructure there. The other is 24th, which the city is thinking about, right, making two-way. And so data there might be useful for planning that. But we may have to make a choice between one of those intersections. So if people from the transit team, walkability, have feelings about that, or if you want to get involved in seeing what the streetlight data can tell us. I've got a long email from the tech support people about some funky stuff that was happening to see how useful that data is going to be given the limited bus ridership we have. But there's other opportunities there to collaborate on that for the 24th Street line.
Elle.
I actually,
Hi.
oh, sorry.
No, I was saying thank you. Thanks for, it's your turn. I'm excited to see you here. Thanks for being here.
Should I introduce myself a little bit, or should I? Hello, everyone. My name is Elle Love, and I am a news reporter for Noise Omaha. I also work with Stephanie, since she's our digital. Sorry. Yeah. So Stephanie invited me to the meeting to kind of give more on I guess an insight on transportation and stuff. And it was interesting that you guys mentioned the 24th bus, because I had many problems with the 24th bus. I would even recall, I guess, an anecdote where on the hottest day, like 2 24th buses broke down and I had to wait for like, I think almost an hour for the bus to arrive, and I just ended up taking an Uber because my brother was kind of overheated and it was like really the hottest day. And I called Metro, funny thing, and then they were telling me, well, the next bus will come in about 5:37. 5:37 came, it never arrived. So and it was really hot. So yeah, I just walked over to a subway and just an Uber. But I mean, and then it's also interesting how different the circulation is in North Omaha versus I would say around where UNO is at, like Axarban area. That it has tons more circulation there than I would say North Omaha, because the wait times are a lot longer here, like here. And it's just, I mean, especially in 24th and Coming. Like, there was another time I stand with a pregnant woman and I was giving her my phone. And I was like, please don't pass out on me. Hopefully the bus will come soon. So, you know, that's just basically a little snippet of how bad the circulation is in North Omaha. And I've been actually wanting to do some stories about that type of stuff, because it's an issue. I mean, especially if there's people that can't even, I don't know. I mean, there's some people that can't really afford a bus ride, and then on top of that, like, and I mean, if they're, and I think where you bring up the orbit, like, there's gonna. And that's another problem too. I don't know how much you're going to charge for Orbit if there's like Wi-Fi on the bus. So it's like, how practical is it for the area? Sorry if I'm taking so many people's time. It's just like, I have to get this out because it's just my experience riding the bus. And, 125. Well, that's good. I mean, but I just don't know what a bus with Wi-Fi is going to do to improve circulation, you know?
So if you have a smartphone, even if it's an Android, Inspect, or a laptop, if you are writing to Noise or whatever, you can. It's free as long as you have a laptop or a mobile device that has Wi-Fi capability. It is free. I've researched it and asked Jason Rose so many questions. So yeah,
that's good at least.
If you're on Slack, ask us a bunch of questions. I do all the time.
Yes.
So,
yes. Of course. And it's nice to meet everyone. I'm loving like hearing all this information and just seeing what you guys are doing. So appreciate it. And I look forward to working with any of you to help bring more transportation issues to in the stories and stuff.
That's huge. Thank you so much for being here, Elle. I feel comfortable speaking for all of us, saying we really love help getting the stories out there as far as barriers to transportation. So I think that's a really crucial role that you have, and we're super happy that you're around and plugging in, and continue to show up, continue to share, and let us know how we can help you. So yeah, awesome. That is good to hear. Anything else? Just kind of free for all time. I just feel like the thing that sucks about Zoom meetings is like there's not just like the organic little like conversations that happen at in-person meetings. And so I wanted to just, and we usually, you know, we're at about 10 after. They usually last till about 15 after, sometimes a half an hour in, but I just wanted to continue to open up the floor. We could also do breakout rooms if anybody has like specific you know, topics that they want to do. It's kind of, it's a free for all. It's up to us. Does anybody have strong feelings?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
About the Harney, just to retract. How is the public works dealing with that? If it's privately funded, did they like throw up their arms in the air about it, or how did that go? I'm just really, really interested.
So how did Public Works, like, or how are they maintaining it, or which, I guess, will you say that one more time?
Yeah, so was the Public Works like upset that basically a whole lane was getting taken away from this one-way road?
I hope not. I think that a lot of information shows that one-way streets are not a good idea anyway. There was way too much capacity built into Harney Street. I mean, it was a bazillion lanes. That's an exaggeration, but it was plenty of only car lanes all heading east into downtown. It was like a freeway. So yes, death to one-ways. If you get into strong town stuff, you will see that they echo those sentiments. But basically, I think it's just Public Works probably had some things to say about it. I know Todd Fitzer was, he's the traffic engineer for the city. He was quoted at one point saying bike lanes cost $1 million a mile, which is inaccurate. And so I know there's definitely some pushback from the Public Works Department. But you know, yes, Sherwood, once again, they built the bike lane. They're also, I think, yeah, the ones funding the, because along the lines of bus stuff, we're jumping all around, but K through 12 ride free right now too. So that's another thank you, Sherwood, for doing that. But yeah, Kai, I think that like, I don't know, there was some talk about, oh, we're gonna maybe have to buy special equipment about the bike lane and maintenance. And one of my favorite things, Vinny Palermo was like kind of putting Bob Stubbe, who's the director of Public Works, on the spot. And he's like, can I ask you about this special equipment? Do you already have trucks with plows? And Stubbe's like, yeah. Do you already have paint trucks that can do paint markings? Stewie's like, yeah. He's like, okay, doesn't sound like you need that much special equipment. I was like, yes, Vinny Palermo. Anyway, so, you know, I think that the overall issue with Omaha is sometimes, particularly with Public Works, they're adverse, like really have a problem with change. And, you know, change can be hard for a lot of us, you know, and so it's just like a decade doesn't seem like it should take this long to just be to the point where we're at a pilot project. So I understand, you know, if it's a new weird piece of technology that no one's seen anywhere, like, sure, let's do a pilot. A decade ago, a pilot maybe made more sense because it was a newer concept. But in the last decade, we've learned, or supposedly we could have hypothetically learned, a lot from other communities that have been building these and seeing just a lot of success from them. Unfortunately, Omaha likes to reinvent the wheel. And so we're still talking about these things and only to the pilot stage of the game. That is a good question. Does anybody know? So it's not public, or is it? I mean, this is about to be a public meeting, so Sherwood, you're about to get outed. But can anyone speak to that whole, like, why isn't it all over the place that Sherwood funded the bike lane? All right, good. Huh. Another good point here from Liz about how special equipment, if that's the hang up, because again, when they're putting on, they're like, we got to figure out how to get snow out of it. It's like, okay, maybe we could talk to other cities that have snow and bike lanes. Like, also, as Liz just said, we know how to sort of get rid of, you know, paths full of snow in parks and whatnot. Yeah, Minneapolis, there's plenty of good options. We could learn from others. I do want to, again, if anyone else wants to jump in, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to end on a high note, and I'm just going to highlight some of the successes that we have had in the semi-recent past, because I think it's important. While I am like very guilty of getting super bummed out I have to try to remind myself that we have done some good things. So first of all, we've got a good turnout on this call tonight. So thank you for being here. Backing it up a little bit, we did hear that the city council heard our requests. You know, they couldn't necessarily do enough with it, but they heard us. We're building the team here. We have got more voices to the conversation. We're going to keep that going. Another thing, yes, exactly. If you think of anything, pop it in the chat. But Brian, what you just popped in there is next on my list. We advocated and worked with the new parks director, who, high five, Matt Kalsevich, Director Kalsevich, new guy to town from Des Moines, who is the parks director. And I also had coffee with him a few months ago, and he is willing to work with Mode Shift. I'm trying to keep in regular contact with him. But they, as you may know, they were trying to change the park rules. This started over a year ago. They were trying to say that e-bikes and e-scooters were not allowed on park trails. And we as Mode Shift had a problem with that, because sometimes they like to say, oh, we don't need to build any more bike lanes, you have trails. And then it's like, okay, then let's make sure we're all on the same page about what the trails are, which is recreation. Okay, fine, sure, yes. Access to natural resources, a lot of them are built by the NRD, and transportation. So we all rallied the troops and advocated and wrote our city councilors and the Parks Department and said, hey, let's keep trails accessible for transportation. And that means e-bikes and e-scooters should be allowed on them, and they should be open 24/7. And so there's a lot of back and forth, but we did it. So now trails are open 24/7 in Omaha because of Mode Shift Omaha. Another one is we got Metro, speaking of buses, to allow, we advocated for a policy change with Metro. They were not allowing electric bikes on buses, which if you look at a lot of other municipalities, that's not an issue. And so we contacted the new CEO, another high five to a good new human in leadership position, Lauren Sensick, is at the top of Metro now, and she's great. And I had a call with her and their safety team, who was like, well, we don't want buses blowing up on Dodge Street because of electric bikes. And I was like, we don't, you're right. But where is that happening? Because I have not seen that. And so we encourage them to have conversations with other transit authorities who do allow e-bikes on buses, instead of just the conversations that they did have, which were only with those who did not allow them. And sure enough, they changed the policy. So that was exciting. We also, this was, going a few years back, was we kind of, I'll say, we definitely influenced the city's hire of the new Vision Zero coordinator. Maybe you have not heard of the Vision Zero coordinator. Would not surprise me, because we haven't heard peep really from him. We did invite him to a membership meeting a few months ago, and he does exist. We verified that. He just is kind of, positioned in the Public Works Department and not really maybe doing a whole lot, but we are going to keep communicating with him and asking the city about what he's doing. But that position exists because Mode Shift advocated for it. That was a few years ago. If you don't know what Vision Zero is, you all know how to, Google things, but the Vision Zero initiative is something that started a long time ago in Sweden, I believe, in like the 90s. And Vision Zero, meaning the goal and the vision is 0 deaths on our roadways, 0 deaths and serious injuries. And so we actually were going to have a press conference to talk about multiple crashes that we had seen at 52nd and Radial, and kind of say, hey, City of Omaha, you're not saying anything about all of these deaths and crashes, and we want you to say something about it. And so then the mayor had her own press conference and said that, yes, they're looking into Vision Zero. And then now, as of last December, they hired him. So there are some wins, even when we get bummed out and think that nothing is happening. And yes, there is a Vision Zero coordinator meeting, maybe Liz is looking for it. We're gonna find it. We'll put it somewhere. I don't know where. Oh yeah, here it is. I think I will share it. But yeah, so I don't know. Sometimes when I get real bummed, I just have to remind myself that we aren't doing nothing. I am not the most patient person. I would like more, faster, but we are doing more than nothing. And it's because, again, thank you to Liz, the board chair. We've got, if you're a board member, raise your hand. We've got a few of you on here. anyway, thank you. We wouldn't be doing this without you doing things as well. So I think that's all I've got. And we're at about 8:20. I think this has been a full meeting. I'm ready to have dinner. I hear Scott chopping vegetables in the background. Any parting thoughts from anyone? I'm gonna hit stop to the recording anyway, and then we can get back to the cussing. All right, stopping.